Hi everyone, and welcome to another workout of the week with FCHS. I'm Michaela, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about our feet. So I know this time of year in the summer, a lot of us are doing more walking and hiking and running than we might normally do throughout the year because the weather's much nicer and it's daylight longer and it's just a lot easier to get those sorts of activities in. We're also usually not wearing shoes if you're like me going outside. Or we're not really wearing the right shoes. We have our slides and our flip-flops and maybe some of those flimsy water shoes. And we're not really going with our usual support for our feet like we might get in a pair of sneakers or our winter shoes, which just have a little bit more of that built into the shoe itself. So that can leave our feet feeling a little cranky. And it's important that our feet aren't cranky if we're trying to exercise without any foot or ankle, or even our knee and hip pain can be affected by things going on, even all the way down at our feet. So we're going to do a few exercises today just to kind of work that plantar fascia tissue, which is the bottom, the sole of our foot here. So give them a shot. If you've ever had injuries or problems in that area, some of these exercises might be familiar for you. So do them at your discretion. Just anything a doctor has told you to do in the past, feel free to do. If it's aggravating that, then maybe lay off and come back to it a different day when you're feeling a little bit better. But a lot of these exercises are really good for that, and they can help kind of prevent those issues too. So hopefully you guys can all see me if I sit on the edge of the bed here. So right here I have an old t-shirt, and I'm just going to try to bring this t-shirt towards me using my toes. So I'm kind of pulling it in. Actually a lot harder than it looks. I always cheat and use my legs a little bit more than I'm supposed to. My right foot is telling me it needs a little more love this week because my left one's able to pull a little bit more than my right this week. You can also do this with a towel or really any kind of cloth-like thing. I like anything I can then use as a stretching strap, which you'll see in a little bit. So a big t-shirt or a towel is a little bit lengthier. So you guys can do that a few times if you want, maybe like 3 to 5 times. I'll just do it once so you guys can see that. We'll move on to the next thing. So I'm going to keep this for later. But for our next one, we're going to do a nice foot massage. So I have a tennis ball here. A lacrosse ball also works for this type of exercise. Any sort of hard ball or like a tube that you can roll your foot back over. If your feet are sore, if you are sore at the bottom of your foot, you can freeze a bottle of water and do this exercise with that frozen bottle of water and kind of get some ice in at the same time. So you're just going to place your ball or your bottle or whatever it is on the floor, and your foot's going to be on top of that, and you're just going to move your foot back and forth across that object, and you're going to get a nice little foot massage. You get all up in that arc of your foot, which can be pretty hard to get. That's why it's nice to have a spherical kind of object here. I'm just going to do this about 10 times. You guys can do longer, less, whatever you want. This is an easy thing to kind of do while you're watching TV too. And then you can do it a little mindlessly, but it helps loosen up all that tight tissue in the foot that we ignore until it causes a problem. That's a lot of things with foot pain. We think we're okay, and then one day it's really hard to walk because we're really stiff. So this is a nice exercise to kind of help avoid that. I'm just going to do this 2 or 3 more times. Losing my ball here. It's rolling away. All right. So I'll move that out of the way. And now I'm going to come up here so you guys can see my legs a little bit better. And I'm just going to point and then flex my feet. And that's going to stretch my calves. It'll kind of stretch some of those tendons in the front of my foot. But you might get a nice stretch throughout it too, throughout your foot as well. So this you can do sitting on the floor, sitting in a chair, anywhere where you can get a nice range of motion. I'm going to do 2 more here. 1. And if you want to throw in some foot circles after you do that, feel free. Just make sure you go both ways. And that'll kind of loosen up your ankles. Just going to do 3 on each side. All right. And now we're going to get into some stretches. So you can always do your stretches first. I usually do them after I do exercises, but that's just how my body likes the order of things. Everyone's different, so always do what works best for you. I'm gonna roll my shirt up until it kind of looks a little like a strap or a rope here. Again, a towel works really well for this. If you have a stretching strap or like any kind of yoga strap, that'll also work for this. I'm really big on improv, so I have the shirt here because I don't have my strap with me. But anything that you can wrap around your feet, kind of more towards your toes, and then pull towards you, will work fine. A dog leash, if you're coming back from a walk with your dog, just make sure your dog's back in the house before you take his leash. I'm just going to pull this towards me until I feel a nice stretch in my calf. If you go a little bit further up to get your toes, you might feel a little bit more in your foot. Then again, you can do what you handle. I'm just going to hold this for a few more seconds. You can also do one foot at a time if you feel you get a better stretch that way. Whatever works best for you. It always helps to do maybe one foot at a time if you find you have significantly different ranges of motion on either side. All right, so for our last set of stretches here, I'm going to come over to the wall. And the first one I'm going to do will be a little bit gentler. We're just going to place our hands on the wall right underneath our shoulders. I'm going to step one foot forward, the other one back, probably about a step. I'm going to lean towards the wall. I'm going to feel a nice stretch back here in this calf, and maybe a little bit in my Achilles here. So if I'm here and that feels pretty tense, I'm just going to stay here. If I feel like I need a little bit more, a little bit deeper of a stretch, I'm going to bring this front knee forward a little bit and sink my hips down. All right. You're just going to hold that. Make sure you don't have any knee pain in this front knee. If you start to feel pain there, you can always step back a little bit more and give yourself a little more distance on this leg. Okay, and then we're just going to do the same thing. Let's switch our feet. So I'm going to bring this foot forward, this leg back, and I'm going to find what feels good for me. You might get a nice hip stretch too while you're doing this. I know on this side, my hip is usually my limiting factor versus my calf, but you do want your heel to touch the floor, so I can see in my video I'm cheating a little bit there. Told you my right foot was crankier than my left one today. I'm just going to hold this for a couple more seconds. All right, so our last one will feel a little bit more intense, so again, you do what works for you. We're going to put our foot up directly against this wall. So our toes will be kind of pressing in. We'll get that nice stretch throughout our foot. We're going to feel it all through here. And then we kind of find what works for us. I feel pretty good right here, but if you guys are stretching and you don't feel too much of a stretch, you can lean forward a little bit and kind of press yourself closer to the wall. And then eventually you will feel it. I'm going to hang out back here. This is my sweet spot today. I'm going to hold this for a couple more seconds. All right, and then we're going to switch. And we'll put our left foot up against the wall and kind of find that spot. I'm about the same on this side. But again, if you need more of a stretch, you can always bring yourself a little bit closer in. All right. And another nice place to do this kind of stretch is against a stair too. I usually like to have a wall so I have something to lean against, but sometimes the stair is nice because you can get a little bit more of a range of motion if you feel like you could go a little bit past where I am. All right, so those are some feet stretches and exercises to kind of love them a little bit after all they do for us all the time. You'll see I'm still not wearing sneakers, so I'm really not listening to my own advice. Most of these exercises, though, you should be doing without shoes on, so I'll cut myself some slack. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next week for another one. We'll get back to some more exercises then.